Hello and welcome to Everybody Pulls the Tarp. I'm your host, Andrew Moses. With me today, a very special guest, Shaun Peet. Welcome to the show, Shaun.
Andrew, thank you for having me, man. I'm thrilled to be here.
It's great to have you. And for my audience, Shaun is a NASCAR Pit Crew Coach for Chip Ganassi Racing. He's the co-founder of Deck Leadership. He's the author of a new book, 12-Second Culture. And Shaun, I am just so fascinated by watching NASCAR Pit Crews. I cannot wait to get into all of this with you today.
Absolutely. It's something that kind of exists on the periphery of a lot of people's thought wheel. But these are some of the most efficient teams in the country. And when you really start to dive into it, you understand where all the parallels that can be drawn to other high-performing teams, businesses, etc.
So I have heard you say, Shaun, that a pit crew can change 4 tires and add 2 cans of fuel typically in 12 seconds or less. Walk me through and walk the audience through the different roles and responsibilities and who's on a pit crew.
Absolutely. So that's our job. My job is to train 5 guys to change 4 tires and put 2 cans of fuel in a race car in 12 seconds. We laughingly refer to ourselves as the department of unrealistic expectations because we're expected to do that every single time. So for those of you that aren't familiar with NASCAR, a NASCAR pit stop is made up of 5 guys. There's a fuel man that basically totes a 95-pound can of fuel on his shoulder and has to have it plugged into a skidding race car in under 0.3 seconds. Okay. There's a tire carrier that has to carry 2 65-pound tires to the right side of the race car, drop one off, and have the other one mounted in 0.8 seconds. There's a jack man that has to jump in front of the car, out into where all the other race cars are, and he has to lift the car up, a 3,500-pound race car with one stroke of the jack, while all the other cars are kind of blowing by him on pit road. So people ask what it's like to be a pit crew guy. If you want to know what it feels like, go out to the interstate, put your heels on the white line, and let traffic blow by you inches off your heel. And if that doesn't unnerve you, then you might have what it takes to be a pit crew guy. And then finally, there's 2 tire changers. And they're tasked with hitting 5 lug nuts in under a second. So if you think about that, if you go ahead and blink your eyes, that's about 0.2 of a second. Now for us in the NASCAR world, these cars are moving at about 190 feet per second. So 0.2 of a second equates to 56 feet. The difference in 56 feet in the finishing order at the Daytona 500 is the difference between 1st and 6th. The difference in money is $1.1 million. So we literally have $1 million riding on a lug nut hit.
Shaun, it's so fascinating. And you and I have talked about how this show is called Everybody Pulls the Tarp. And it's all based upon a philosophy that I have that great teams are powered by individuals who contribute far beyond the boundaries of their job description. Now, you just talked about the job descriptions there of the pit crew, but you have a mantra that titles are for books, and it doesn't matter what your title is. You need to do what's best for the team. Talk about that and what inspires that philosophy a little bit for you.
Correct. I think where it started was our first day at Chip Ganassi Racing. I run the department with another guy. His name's Mike Metcalf, and the first thing we did was we took our nameplates off our office door. We don't want to be pit crew coaches. There's a funny fascination with titles in this country. Right? I want to be I'll come if you make me the CMO, or I'll do this if I'm and we say titles are for books. If you're going to give me a title, let it be that I'm hardworking, or that I'm kind, or that I have integrity. And it's a philosophy that kind of goes throughout our department. And when you come into Chip Ganassi Racing, into the pit crew department, there's 26 of us. Your voice is 1/26 of the answer we're looking for. When Mike Metcalf and I were hired as pit crew coaches, we were just pit crew guys at the time. So we knew we didn't have all the answers. But we knew that, okay, if we give everybody a voice and if we bring different viewpoints to the table, we have a chance to find the answer. And so it doesn't matter if you've been there 15 years and you're a senior this or a new guy. Everyone brings a special gift to the equation, right? The young guys bring enthusiasm. The older guys bring wisdom. And each one of them has the opportunity to hold the key to unlock the answer for us. So if we were to put titles on on things, we would never get to where we were going. And one of the interesting asides to that is our jackman on the one car, his father worked for NASA. And you remember the Challenger disaster, correct?
Sure.
There was a junior engineer that spotted the deficiency in that launch before the shuttle was launched, right? He knew it was too cold and the gaskets would not expand to the point where they needed to expand. But because he was a junior engineer, his title prevented him from stopping that launch. And it led to catastrophic consequences. It's a glaring example that, the right answer is the right answer, regardless of whoever it comes from.
So do you guys have a process that where you solicit all that input from everybody, or is it just an open door type of environment?
It's both. It's an open door environment because, like I said, a good idea is a good idea. We also review our guys at the end of the year, and we want their negative feedback. Like, our program's been built on negative feedback. And I think Mike and I's egos are in the right place, that we're willing to take that negative feedback and make our program better. So we're always looking to improve it. There's one thing that really helps us is we have there's an intentional congruence of competition that's woven through our entire program. And what we do is we have guys, if NASCAR went from 6 guys to 5 guys a couple of years ago. And what we did is we split the teams up. They had to come up with the best way of doing it. And then we brought them back together and they competed. And we got to see which way worked the best. And it wasn't Mike and I saying, this is it. It was, everyone else lending, their opinions. One thing that we definitely want, so many companies now, they just want our work. They don't want our gift, right? Or our say. We want our guys to express their gift. We want their opinion, because it makes that type of diversity is strength. And again, there's a couple things that have to be in the right place for that in order for that to work. But again, 26 brains are better than 2.
So you talked a lot about some stuff that happens behind the scenes, and all of us see the race and what the pit crew does in the race to some extent. I'm curious, what happened? What's the week look like, or what's the season look like for a pit crew?
Well,
you guys are working every day.
We are, and it's taken on a couple different iterations over the years. Like, when I first got into NASCAR, it was 1 hour pit practice, and then you wrenched on the race cars for 10 hours. And then Red Bull came along in 2006, and they went to full-time athletes. They went after athletes specifically to pit the race cars. And then that's all we did all day was pit race cars. And then that's kind of the model that's kind of come down the line now. So a typical week for us is Monday we have yoga, and guys can do some extra work, and then they're gone. Tuesday we come in, it's film, and then a skill-specific day. So whatever racetrack we're going to, whatever challenges might present themselves at that racetrack, we're going to drill down on them on Tuesday. And then we work out. Wednesday, it's a competition day. All 4 of our teams are together, and they fight for a belt that we have. After that, we have our hardest workout of the week, which is our Wednesday workout. Thursday, they come in. It gets more specific. It's race practice. And then we play a grade school game like kickball or murder ball or bump. And then they get Friday off, and they're at the racetrack Saturday pitting the Xfinity car, and they'll be back on Sunday pitting the Cup car. So it's a full-time deal. And that's one of the things, one of the barriers of entry is, if you're going to be a NASCAR pit crew guy, you are going to give up a regular cadence of life. Like, if you like going to country music concerts on the weekend or college football games, forget it. You start on Valentine's Day and you race until Thanksgiving. And in that time, you only have 2 weekends off. So you better be committed to what you're about to get into.
Are data and analytics and video work a big part of it?
Huge part. We actually have an analytics guy now. So basically, everything is filmed and everything is broken down with software. And like I said, to the 100th of a second. And basically what it does is we generate this sheet, and this sheet comes back to me and it's colored. And if you're green, you're good. If you're red, we have work to do. And basically what the sheet does is it highlights where we are deficient on the car, or where we could gain speed on the car. So analytics are playing a much bigger role as we move forward. But that's a hard thing. We had to let a guy go 2 years ago that helped us build our program. His wife's 9 months pregnant, and there was another kid that was 0.3 of a second faster than he was. And we had to let him go. And that's really It's hard letting anyone go, but to know that you had to let them go because someone else was 0.3 faster is sounds absurd from the outside, but we live and die by it.
So in your world, more than most, like little things make a huge difference, as you just outlined.
They do, and like I said, one thing we always talk about is everything matters. I love when people talk about, I'm a big ideas person. Big ideas never materialize unless all the little things are the foundational things that allow the big idea to happen. So yes, everything matters, and everything from the arrival mindset of our guys to how we execute on Sunday. And it's, like I said, we're very intentional about addressing all of it.
So are you I ask coaches all the time. We've had a lot of college coaches on this show. Are you training towards to perfection? How do you look at perfection? How does that work?
Perfection is a unicorn. So what we say is our goal is not to be perfect. Our goal is to be better tomorrow. So incremental improvement over time. That's how speed is built. But in order to do that, there's things that are very important for us. Like when we talk about, we really stress about our guys' arrival mindset, right? We talk about all the time how thoughts are things, and that the view that we adopt for ourselves profoundly affects the way that we live our life. So if we have a kid that, we fly in from 10 o'clock from Kentucky and we need him at the shop at 10 o'clock, if he comes through the door Monday morning and says, Monday's going to suck, guess what? Monday's probably going to suck, right? So what we ask them is, we want the best version of yourself the moment you put your hand on the door. Because we're human beings. We don't stay the same. We either get better or we get worse, but we do not stay the same. And it's you versus yesterday. And we get them for 4 hours a day. We want the best version, because that's the version that we're going to be able to push the pace with.
So I want to go back a little bit in your career. So because it's interesting. So you come from Canada, you're a hockey player. How did you find NASCAR?
Divine providence, stroke of luck, fork in the road, however you want to say it. I was lucky enough to make it all the way to the American Hockey League, and I really had no business being there. I was always like the worst player who just made the next team, and then the worst player who just made college, and then, but I got to go. I went all the way to the Calder Cup Finals with Wilkes-Barre in the American League, and I went back to Wilkes-Barre the next year, tried out, was on the opening day roster, but I was the only non-drafted defenseman there. Well, the night before the home opener, the Pittsburgh Penguins make a trade with Florida. They get 2 defensemen. Well, guess who's going down to the minors? So they send me to Greensboro, North Carolina. And some things happened in the game. I got sent out, and basically I was a catalyst of this huge brawl, and I was suspended for 18 games.
Okay.
And when I was in the stands, I met a guy from NASCAR. And he, my dad has a garage back home, and he said, look, when your dad comes down, I'll show you around. And this was back before athletes were pitting the race cars. It was largely just mechanics still pitting the cars. So, when the guy was showing me around this race shop, they were doing pit practice, and it wasn't going well. So the guy showing me around was like, hey, get the hockey player into practice. Right? And I wasn't dressed to do pit stops. And I initially said, no, I'm good. But he was insistent. So I went, and I pulled off a time pretty comparable to the guy who'd been doing it for 5 years. And he's like, you should do this. And I thought he was joking around. And I played the next year out in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And I get a phone call, and they're like, no, man, we're serious. Do you want to do this? So I was like, yeah, I'll try it for a year. And that was 16 years ago. Never in a million years did I think this would be what I would do in life.
Wow. And so a lot of athletes pit NASCAR.
Oh, yeah. So especially now, if you look at our lineup, over the 6 years we've been there, we've had 2 United States Navy SEALs. We currently have a linebacker from the Pittsburgh Steelers. We have a kid that led Clemson in tackles his junior and his senior year. We've had an Olympic swimmer. The athletic acumen of these guys has ratcheted up considerably over the course of the year, because they understood that this is stock car racing. So the more similar the cars were on the track, there was a decided advantage that could have been won in the pits. So first it was improved tooling, and then it was getting these high-performing athletes to come in, to the point where, when we got the kid from Clemson, he was so fast around the car. I looked at the other coach and was like, I don't even know I can coach that. Like the movement was just so much more dynamic and continues to be. Because when I got in, I was a B minus athlete. And then we started getting Bs, but now we're starting to get As because, this is an avenue a lot of athletes don't consider post athletic career, but you're still part of a team. You still get an adrenaline rush. We pay these guys 6 figures to change tires. So a lot more athletes are kind of cluing in that, hey, this might be something. I might not be built for a cubicle, but I'm built for this. And we're starting to see more athletes come in.
And from an attitude perspective and a cultural fit perspective, it works really well for all those reasons.
Well, yeah. And then for us, like when we inherited our program, we took over a broken program. And our program wasn't broken because we were devoid of talent. We had a lot of talent, but we were lazy and we were entitled and we were selfish. And one thing that Mike and I were adamant about is that we were going to build it a different way. And the first thing was we were going to put more sweat on the floor than any other team. And our number one recruiting criteria was that we would put nothing above being a world-class human being. If you were that, I can turn you into a pit guy. So what we did is we crafted a highly curated first day experience with us. And we put a bunch of obstacles in people's way so that then when they came and tried out, we could see what they were made of pretty quickly. And, stuff that is not scripted that, one of the things that, if we'd ask them to be there at 8:00, excuse me, if they showed up at 7:30, great. If they show up at 8, they're gone. There's a bunch of dirty work that goes on during practice, right? Wiping grease off of tires. And if they jumped into that work unprompted, that spoke volumes about who they were. And that would be another check mark, and they would go on. Wednesday, I told you before, is our hardest workout of the week. We asked them to participate in that workout. And we weren't looking for the kid that lifted the most weights. We wanted to see their intestinal fortitude, right? 4 tires in 12 seconds. You are operating on the verge of what's humanly possible. So one thing that's coming your way for sure is failure. And we wanted to see how you would handle failure in that workout. We had a kid throw up in the middle of one workout, rallied and came back, and he thought he was gone. We loved it because it showed what this kid was made of. If he survives that, think about it. We have Navy SEALs, we have NFLers, and you've been on campus for 3 hours. I would just come up to you right at the last second and be like, hey, Andrew, break the group up for me, please. So now you have to gather up the 26 alpha males, get everyone's hands in the middle, and you have to say something that inspires them. So that shows me how you handle pressure, right? Do you fold in that moment? Do you flourish in that moment? So there's a couple other things that would go on, but what we do is we're peeling back the layers to see exactly what we're dealing with, because it takes us about 2 years to develop a pit crew guy. And Dave Ramsey has a famous quote about how, even a donkey can look like a thoroughbred for the first interview. We're trying to figure out, is this kid a donkey or is this kid a thoroughbred, like as quickly as we can?
It's interesting. And you and I have talked about, again, the name of the show is Everybody Pulls the Tarp. And we talked about the philosophy earlier, but it all goes back to a day 16, 17 years ago when I started working in minor league baseball. And I thought I was going to do front office work. And they told me that I was going to need to pull the tarp on and off the field during rain delays, because the grounds crews in the minor leagues are much smaller than their counterparts in the big leagues. And, it's always stuck with me. And it's really what has what we've built this show around, and that there's no job that's beneath somebody. There's no job that's above anybody. And you got to do what it takes. It's really interesting, the parallels there.
It is. And one thing that parallels that almost exactly, Andrew, one thing we tell our guys all the time is that a rising tide lifts all ships. Because like I said, if we are as fast as our weakest guy. So our guys surround that guy, support him, try to figure out how we can improve the performance, because they understand the better he does, the better we do. And I think a lot of that's lost. We've become so siloed, and it's this competition to get to the corner office, when people would just realize, hey, if everyone would pitch in, the whole company rises and it benefits all of us. Right. So when I first heard your analogy of pulling the tarp, I loved it.
Thank you. And when you think about it, right, in your world, these 5 guys, I'm sure they're competitive, but they can't compete with one another. They have to make each other better, because that's the only way the team is going to be successful.
You're right. And we're lucky because we have 4 teams that genuinely want to see each one succeed. Now, they want to take each other's head off on Wednesday when we compete, but they're thrilled for each other when they win races, and because they know if the other team does great and Chip Ganassi Racing wins and a sponsor sees that and we get more increased sponsorship and more money comes into the building, that's going to benefit them too, right? But it's the 1,000-foot view instead of the 10-foot view. What's in it for me, right? We had that when we arrived, right? We had talented guys that were selfish. We just weren't willing to deal with it.
And it took a while to change that cultural tide.
It did. It took a couple of years. We had some really strong guys right at the start that helped us. I mean, you were talking to a volleyball coach in one of the episodes just recently, the lady from Florida, which was a phenomenal podcast. And she talked about her best player. When your best player is your hardest working guy, you have a good chance of turning things around quickly. And we were lucky. Our jackman on the 42 car, kid named Shane Wilson, he's so driven, has earned everything he's ever got. And you were either going to follow his lead or you were going to get kicked out of the group. And we built it around people like that. And we did not compromise on what we were looking for. And the thing is we compete with these other teams with almost half the budget. So we knew we had to do it a better way. So we had to weaponize our culture and be very intentional about who came through the door, who we were going to get, and in order for us to compete on Sunday.
So you've got a new book out, 12-Second Culture. Tell me about the book and what's it all about?
Well, the book was born out of speed is the new currency of business. And we kept hearing echoes of a lot of speak in corporate America of like bosses and managers wanting their team to operate like a pit crew. And there's a fundamental misunderstanding there. I think a lot of managers say, we want you guys to operate like a pit crew, and they think it's a systems thing. Operating like a pit crew is elevating people over performance, right? You cannot mandate great efforts. You can only inspire them. So 12-Second Culture is about inspiring human brilliance. How do you take a group of people, bring them together, and create a high-functioning team? And we talk about things like I said, we talked about earlier, a rival mindset, failing quickly. We know we're going to fail in our business. Our guys are really good at failing quickly and moving on. There's a chapter on that. There's a chapter on, as a team without a big budget, one thing that we don't allow our guys to do is prove people wrong. We get so many guys that are cast-offs from other teams, and the first thing they tell us, well, coach, thanks for hiring me. I'm going to prove my old team wrong. We don't allow that. And the reason is, if you ever think about it, Andrew, at what moment in your life do you get to prove someone wrong? A promotion or a championship but whatever it is, it's going to be some bright spot in your life, some summit moment, correct? Well, correct. If you prove someone wrong, what did you do? You just brought those people to that moment with you, right? Like if you had a brilliant moment, say you're on vacation and you were looking out at a sunset over a beach, would you bring 3 people that you despise or that didn't believe in you or that treated you poorly? Would you bring them into that vacation spot with you?
No.
That's what you do every time you prove someone wrong. What if instead you prove people right? You take your people like your parents or your grandparents or a coach or a coworker that poured their love and their time and their respect and their belief into you. If you prove people right, when you're at those summit moments, those are the people that are there with you. And you unburden yourself from all those people that never believed in you.
That is unbelievable. I am going to write that down, Shaun, and that's how I'm going to start. That's how I'm going to start thinking. Proving people right. That is phenomenal, Shaun. It has been an absolute pleasure to dig into all this with you. One of these days, I'm gonna, when the world opens up again, I'm gonna have to get down to a NASCAR race and see you guys in action.
Likewise, man. We'd love to have you anytime. Come on down.
Shaun, thank you for joining Everybody Pulls the Tarp.
Absolutely. Thank you, Andrew.